Well, once again, hi and howdy, folks. Welcome to everybody. Come on in, have a seat. Some new faces. Always glad to see new faces. Appreciate you coming here. I was just wondering what I was going to do with this here tobacco leaf. It was the subject of the last episode of the channel. I don't use this. I do not smoke, never have, or dipped, or spit tobacco anyway. But it doesn't matter. There's enough people around here who do use it. I shouldn't have any problem disposing of it in some manner. Now, if you are new to the channel, and this is your first time here to Dave Diggs History, I'm Dave Diggs, by the way. This is part 2 of a two-parter. You're welcome to stick around and listen to it and catch part 1 some other time. Or, in order to make sense of this, because it's not going to make a lot of sense otherwise, I don't think, you can go and catch the previous episode, which is number 31. This is 32. And then come on back. We'll be glad to see you. We'll still be here. When we last left off with episode 31, which discussed Virginia tobacco culture, at the end I mentioned, after going through a slew of this is what happens, I had said, but that didn't happen here. At least, not all of it. This is Franklin County, which means it's Southwest Virginia, and it makes a difference in tobacco culture at this time. Why should it make a difference? Because this is mountain country. This isn't the Piedmont. This isn't the Tidewater. Things are different here because this is mountain country. Topography affects people. Topography affects culture. Now, the mountains in particular are the Blue Ridge Mountains of Southwest Virginia, and the Blue Ridges are just a subset, you might say, of the Appalachians. And for those of you who don't know, here is a public service announcement that may save you a little bit of embarrassment. It's not Appalachia. That's not how it's pronounced. It's Appalachia, which is the correct pronunciation. If you ever come down here our way, and we hope you do, stay a little while, visit. There's some nice people here. It's a nice area. But if you say Appalachia, you just might have someone correct you. Oh, sweetheart, that's not how we say it down here. You said Appalachia. Here it's Appalachia. Bless your heart. Now that we got that out of the way, here's why the culture is different here. Comparing it to the last culture, where you had millions and millions of pounds leaving Virginia to go overseas to be sold at market, here production is quite limited. The schedule is still the same. In February you do this, in March you do this, late August you do that. That hasn't changed, but we're not talking, for this time period, large plantations where the big crop is tobacco. Small scale, yes. Down here in Southwest Virginia, the biggest cash crop is probably tobacco, but it's not the biggest crop. The biggest crop is a foodstuff. Here's how it works down here. Because it's mountainous, transportation costs are expensive. Getting things from point A to point B, like something to take to market to sell. Roads in the mountains. Well, I had mentioned in the last episode that typically the product was shipped overseas in hogsheads, barrels holding 146 gallon capacity, weighing 1/2 ton each. I can't see a lot of wagons going up and down these hills with 2 or 3 hogsheads, 1.5 tons, 2 tons. So most of the production of tobacco here is produced for domestic local consumption. Not a lot of it, if any of it, goes outside the area to market. Now, the people who raise it and sell it, they sell it largely for manufactured goods, tools for the blacksmith shop, for instance, or a new pointed plow, or perhaps even some calico cloth to make a new apron or dress out of. Small scale. It still matters. It's whatever keeps the farm alive. But things are about to change. And the changes are going to have an effect on the tobacco culture around here. One of the changes will involve transportation. One change will involve production. This is a tobacco leaf. It has been cured. I mentioned in the last episode, a fresh leaf is green and it's sort of waxy. This has been through the curing process. This is ready to go to market, provided it passes inspection. Well, you cure it by exposing it to the air. As I mentioned in the last episode, you tie up some leaves in a bundle, you hang them up in the tobacco barn, and let them stay there until they're cured. Also involving a sweating process, we discussed that. Those leaves are air cured. This leaf is not air cured. It is flue cured. And flue curing is new in the 1850s. And here's what that is. You have your tobacco barn and you build a flue attached to one of the walls. And the flue is fed firewood from the outside, not the inside. What you're going for in flue cured tobacco is the heat, not the smoke. The smoke comes later. No pun intended. So the flue is built on the outside of the tobacco barn. The heat comes in and it cures the leaf, something like this. It looks like this on the finished product. If you go around somewhere in Southwest Virginia, and I have, looking at the countryside, you'll come across tobacco barns. Actually, quite a number of them. And they're about 12 by 12 or 10 by 10. They're not terribly big. If you do that, if you go around and you see a tobacco barn, look to see, is there a flue or some sort of apparatus you might not recognize, but it looks like it burns something and it's attached to the outside of the building. If you see that, that tobacco barn was built for flue cured tobacco. Now, if you don't see any sort of apparatus or maybe a place where there used to be one, that's a much older barn and that is devoted to air cured. The new way of curing tobacco is an improvement. Of course, consumption's still going to be local no matter what the improvement in the leaf is, until in the 1850s, this same decade, transportation in the form of the Virginia and Tennessee Railroad comes to this area via Big Lick, which is the old name for Roanoke. When that happens, transportation costs, for some folks anyway, is going to drop. It'll be cheaper to send it to market, cheaper to do everything essentially, and makes it easier to get to a foreign market, which means if you have the land, you can then go upscale and plant many, many thousands and thousands of plants. Make some money like that. This crop of green leaves is as good as gold. And in the last episode, we discussed how it was used early on as money. But, here we go with the buts again. Tobacco is extremely hard on the soil. It soaks up nutrients. It just does so. Lots of them. The soil gets depleted of its nutritive benefits rather rapidly, which means in maybe 2 years, 3 years' time, that soil is no good for anything. And if you want to keep growing your tobacco, you have to have some more land somewhere. Some folks practice crop rotation. They use some land to grow the tobacco. And when the land peters out, when this sucks up all the nutrients there are, they'll let the land lie fallow for a while. They'll clear off another patch of land and repeat the process. Considering how long it takes for the land to rejuvenate, which can be a decade or more, you really have to have an awful lot of land to engage in this sort of crop rotation. It doesn't work otherwise. Now, what that means is, if you don't have that kind of land, or if you've used up all your land and rendered it essentially worthless for the next 10 or 15 years, you have to pull up stakes and go somewhere else where the land is essentially virgin soil, or at least hasn't been pillaged by the leaf, and start all over. And of course, if you don't have lots and lots and lots of land, you're going to have to pack up and move sooner or later. That's just the way tobacco works. It's very hard on nitrogen, phosphates, all sorts of other things that render soil good for everything, including tobacco, for a while anyway. But once the transportation and the new flue curing process kicks in, things will change. There will be some larger plantations growing this crop, and that will last for a while. For the meantime, in here, 1850, anybody who wants some backup? Thanks very much for coming by. Always a pleasure to see everybody, and hope everybody's doing well. And what's going to happen next time? Good question. I have no clue. It's still going to be February. I'm still going to have some children, perhaps a lot of them, out making mounds for the tobacco plants, transplanting from the beds, weeding, picking off the tobacco worms, all that sort of stuff. But something's going to happen. I'm pretty sure that something's going to happen. And if you'll tune in next time for episode 30, it'll be 33, we'll talk about it. In the meantime, glad everybody is here. Hope to see you again. Hope you're all doing well. And until our paths do cross again, and I'm pretty sure they will, as usual, I have the honor to remain. I need a bigger scarf. I have the honor to remain your most respectful and obedient servant, Dave Diggs. Coming to you from, you know the rest, happens every time, coming to you from a long time ago. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.